Just think, 2026, the best job in football is coaching Fremantle. I look at their list, I look at where they're at, I look at the opportunities in front of this footy club, and I don't know if that's going to be Justin Longmuir anymore. I really don't. I think that he has to play finals this year in his 6th season to show that he is the man. And all the evidence put before us, you have to question. He's gone 7 wins, 10 wins, 13.5 and a finals opportunity, back to 10, 12.5 and now sits on 10 and probably will get to 13. But 13 is not going to be enough. So he's going to have to win against Hawthorn this week or Collingwood the week after or find a way to get up against the Dogs in the last game of the year on the road. And that's it. That's the reality for me.
What's your knock?
Well, everyone says they're a young team. I think that's a nonsense. I think when you look at that team today, they had 3 players under 22 years of age. So they might be inexperienced with games with some guys, but once you get to 100 games, is there a difference between 100 and 120 games? Does that make you a far better product because you've played another dozen games or 20 games? I don't really think so. So I don't give them the outs that others give. When you've got Tracy, Bolton and Reid, who's probably going to be one of the favourites for the rising star on your forward line, your midfield's stacked. Jackson, we've talked about for half the year as being the best ruckman in the competition. Sarong Brayshaw, I know that Young's out there, is in an absence at the moment, which is a concern. But the way they play, for me, leaves them vulnerable against every team. They've lost more games to bottom 10 teams than anyone else. 6 and 4, top 9 versus bottom 9. They've had 10 games against the poorer teams in the competition, which is the most in the AFL.
Why is that? What's the issue with the style?
I just think they play a slow brand of footy. They play a different brand of footy. Every team has nuance. Every team has a point of difference. And there's the top 9 versus the bottom 9. The good teams just really don't lose to them. They really don't. It's, I think, 33 and 3. Something like that, 32 and 3. So that's since round 10. So you just got to tick those games off. And Fremantle don't tick them off. It's as simple as that. And this is why they find themselves out of the 8. And I think when you look at why they're there, it has to come back, not to the magnets for me, to the man at the top. Is he the guy to take them all the way to a premiership? 6th year, I have my doubts. I've had my doubts for a while. And I just think if you miss finals, we're not talking about winning the thing, we're talking about missing finals now. So I'm right under the hammer with this. They've been rebuilding for the best part of a decade. The last couple of years of Ross and the full 6 years of this guy. So I reckon he's under the most pressure in the AFL right now. He's on a contract that didn't give him any confidence. They've talked about being a top 4 team in the pre-season. Even he, if you listen to him today talk, and we'll take a quick snapshot of what he said in the post-match, he's still talking about top 4.
To live in the moment. No, it wasn't as though we were going to go through the rest of the season and not lose. Probably hoping that, but it's a bit unrealistic. Loss was going to come. We will review it the same as what we reviewed our 6 wins. Get better. Try and beat Hawthorn next week. Yeah, we're on the same. I don't know. I haven't looked at the ladder since the game, but I'd imagine we're a game out of the 4 or equal with someone in the 4. Like it's. Yeah, we lost the game. We're not out of it. Keep fighting.
So that's him saying that he's still comparing them to the top 4. So that's where they see themselves. So if you miss the 8, that's a disaster. They've had the luxury of the extra home game this year that the Kangaroos sold to Western Australia. So I just think this is it. Find out whether this guy's your man. If he's not, rip the Band-Aid off and go again. Find the guy that is going to take you there, because this club's meandered for a fair while.
Because for Fremantle fans, what is the pass score? What is the expectation? You think they've got a list to be top 4, to go all the way? How good should Fremantle be?
Well, this list, when they got Bolton...
Lacks nothing.
When they got Bolton, everyone said, no, they're ripe now. They're ripe to go. And that's not to win the flag. We're talking about making the 8 now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's watering expectation down far too low. So I think the heat's on him. Accept the challenge and go and get the job done. If your game plan stacks up against the good teams, well, we'll find out in the next couple of weeks.
So the Hawthorn game coming up this week is going to be one of the biggest games for the football club in a long time. And can they handle the expectation and the pressure that comes with playing in a game that's going to mean so much?
Well, they didn't last year. There's the last 4 games of last year. They can't afford a repeat of that, or I think there'll be big decisions made at the end of the season.
So Sydney 11-point winners over the Dockers. The Swans are back with some of their best players back in the fold. It was an impressive performance from the Swans, and you had a look at the stoppage battle.
Yeah, the clearance game dominated, and that is now becoming a bit of a theme for Fremantle. When they get beaten around clearance, then what else do they have? Because they got smashed in that facet today. And when they've lost that, they've lost 5 of their 8 games when they've lost the clearance battle. And today, Sydney absolutely dominated them around the contest. So that was clearly their best result for the year. For the Swans, it was Fremantle's worst return scores from stoppage since 2019. They got absolutely pantsed around there. And Grundy was brilliant. And now everybody always then turns to, with the stoppages, well, the 2 rucks, how did it pan out? So if we take a look today at how it went, well, when this is Grundy. So when Grundy was going up against Sean Darcy, he lost the clearance battle by 2. But when Grundy went up against Luke Jackson, they won it by 12. So they got their dominance there. And this was very similar numbers to last week that you showed with Rowan Marshall. Rowan Marshall, the first possession was plus 16 against Luke Jackson, but broke even against Sean Darcy. So I think this continues to show why Fremantle understand they need the 2 rucks, and Luke Jackson going up against the bigger ruckman probably hasn't been able to match them in the hitouts, which is such an important facet. And as we said, the clearance game, Sydney dominated, particularly out of centre bounce. They kicked 5 goals from centre bounce. We know the SCG is a centre bounce ground, and it just gave them so much ascendancy. So Fremantle only scored twice from stoppage for the whole game, and they were both in the last quarter when they were trying to take the game on and win it. Otherwise, it was absolute annihilation in there. Brody Grundy had 12 clearances himself. The rest of the big 3, Goulden, Warner, Heaney, had 15 between them. And they got the better of Fremantle. And as I said, Fremantle have probably shown if their clearance game gets taken away from them, they are a bit more vulnerable. You know, can they rely on their sort of counter-attack game? They're able to score from turnover, but it was just there were no chance. And they split the ruck time, 70 minutes to Sean Darcy, 50 minutes to Luke Jackson. Darcy had the 6 clearances, Jackson just the 1, but that was a very disappointing performance.
You have to admire Grundy. I mean, his story, booted from Collingwood a couple of years ago in the 2s at Melbourne, a fresh start at Sydney, slow start this season, but now looks like one of the form ruckmen of the competition in particular. But you mentioned Carlton's struggles inside the stoppage. It was James Jordan who really put the clamps on Caleb Serong.
Yeah, I think he suffers from tagophobia, our man Caleb Serong. He's too often got, and Jordan's got him a couple of times now. And if you have a look at the way that it happens, I mean, season low clearances, I mean, he's never had a game like that. 1 clearance.
Yeah, wow.
So when he's tagged, his game just falls apart. We saw it for 3 quarters last week, and he broke clear in the last. You've got to do the job. You're a leader of this football club. You're being tagged. You've got a responsibility when Sydney win the ball to do the job against your tag, your direct opponent. This is the 2nd of his goals in the second term. Like, that's embarrassing. And the Swans knew it. They went after him. Where are the rest? We keep talking about this. If this is Collingwood, Nick Dacos doesn't play against the tagger. The team play against the tagger. Serong played against the tagger today. There was very little help, and especially in a moment like that. That's when you need the support, because you know it can get on top of you. Oh, I think he's got a problem that he has to really address. It's been a few times this year that he's been clamped. If he is to be that player and they are to go somewhere, they've all got to buy into him being tagged. And these are the small things that just go on the pile with Fremantle.
Well, he could be a Brownlow medal winner, Caleb Serong, let's be honest. But if that's the blueprint in the run home, you'd think other teams, as you say, are going to copy it and do.
He's got an awful back half of the year coming now.
It's going to be a big run home for the Dockers.